YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. We've got all new from E-flite, the B-2 Micro. Not Ultra Micro, but it's still microer. So we're gonna take off with this right now. Real quick, we do have fixed gear, so you can take that off in a hurry. Because of the crosswind, as you can see, we've got a pretty good amount of wind. This thing is supposed to handle the wind, and yes, there is no vertical stabilizer, but it does come with a clear fin that you can insert if you want to do some more aerobatic maneuvers. We're told you don't need it. We'll find out if that's true. Ours did not. Our sample, they forgot to put it back in. So we're gonna take off that direction, which is a little bit unusual on the runway. You can hand launch, you can belly land. You can take all that stuff off, and we're flying today on 850 milliamp hour 3S Gen 2 Smart Pack. Yes, this is the recommended size, plus 2 millimeters, minus 5 millimeters from 140 millimeters on the nose of the aircraft is your center of gravity. It is not the line on the top, don't get confused. All right, throttle cuts off. Here we go. We're in AS3X, full throttle, into the elevator. Keep in the elevator. Riding the elevator. Oh yeah! It's doing great. Definitely need a little bit of trim to keep that nose up. It's wanting to go down. I'm at 50% throttle. Oh man, that looks sweet up there, even in the blue sky. I'm gonna go in a circuit here, guys. The reason we're doing the circuit is because I wanna get my trim on the elevator. And we have heavy wind, so I've got a good place to fly with a good green backdrop, okay? So a real relaxed flight right here. It seems to be doing just a fantastic job. There is a little bit of yaw authority. I'm gonna go into my trims on the elevator here. Okay, so I gave myself quite a little bit of trim there. Really good flat turning characteristics, very unexpectedly. Good yaw authority. I cannot believe the yaw authority, guys. It is not calm. It is very windy. And yes, we are flying this for a true maiden. Here we go. That looks fantastic. And I gotta say, I am super amazed by how well this is flying. But yes, you are gonna be limited on the amount of roll authority and all the different authorities that you might want to fly a little airplane. But I'm not scared. It's very easy to fly, which is incredible. Now I'm gonna go into safe. Here's safe. And I just wanna show you this, guys. You can't do that with the big ones. Hands off the sticks. Good roll authority still, good yaw authority, in fact. You see the yaw? A little bit of overcorrection there coming out of the yaw input, and we're just gonna bring it around, guys. Don't get into a death spiral with this thing. Watch this, 40% throttle, 30% throttle, 850 milliamp hour, 2S. Very hard on the throttle, using the yaw to bring the nose around, and the thing is doing fantastic. I am in safe. This is very weird. Guys, that is so sweet. I can't believe how good the thing is flying. I thought for sure this thing was gonna flop over and die. Okay, down the runway. Okay. Wow, this thing is tuned so well. I am like amazed it's still flying. It is really windy. Okay, I wanna see if I can do a touch and go here. Okay. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like this is the most aerobatic plane I've ever flown. It's absolutely not that thing. But I am gonna say, holy cow, it is beautiful. And just staying in the throttle a little bit. There we are. Guys, that is incredible, and tons of yaw authority. Look at that. Guys, you can yaw it all the way around. Very easy ground handling. And I'm just gonna do something different here. I'm gonna take off in safe. We like never do that. Okay, here we go, safe. Pull back on the elevator. Oh my goodness gracious, I did a safe takeoff in like a 15-mile-an-hour crosswind with an ultra micro. That's not an ultra micro. Landing again, landing again. Guys, safe is making this so easy and not scary, folks. Look at this, out of the throttle. There it is. Actually, I'm gonna do a go around because I don't wanna land on 3-inch clean with my 36-inch plane, okay? So our 5-minute timer is elapsed. Timer is still counting. And we're just gonna bring it around. Guys, I cannot believe how dang good this thing's doing. It does like to disappear in the trees. I guess it is a stealth bomber. Anyway, the B-52, or excuse me, not the B-52, the B-2 Spirit. Oh, we got a self-induced oscillation. Yes! Good job, Safe. You handled it like a champ. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn around. We're gonna put it in AS3X, we're gonna do a takeoff, same direction. Here we go, AS3X this time. Hard on the throttle, Get her in the air, baby. Okay, get it flying, get it flying. She's flying just fine. And it's just kind of, it's like a different flight experience. I can tell you that. It glides better than I expected. Okay, let's see if we can land it. Gosh, why are we landing with the wind anyway?
I don't know.
Let's do this. Let's turn it around. We're also flying with our backs to our normal, ordinary standing position. That's because of the direction of the wind and the sun. Okay. Beautiful shadows over the trees. Get into it. Guys, look at that. It's so dang good. I thought this thing was going to be turdish, but it's actually flying wonderfully. So if you're brand new to the hobby, this is Brian Phillips RC. We unbox them, we build them, we set them up on the radio systems, and then sometimes we land them successfully. Okay, here we go. I'm going to see if I can land this thing. See, you guys hear the differential thrust? That is so dang cool. I cannot believe how good it is. But you know what? That wind, I'm thinking what I want to do is I want to go ahead and bring it around this direction. You guys see this? Watch this. I'm going to just do a little bank, a little yank. Let's see if I can bring it in. Now we are pointing into the wind, okay? So I don't know why I said we were going with the wind. We weren't going with the wind. What was I saying that for? You can't slip a plane with differential thrust, guys. Woo! Get into the throttle hard, Brian. You bounced her in bad. All right, so beautiful. Love that shine when it goes around. Okay, so let's see if we can do this here. Nice and slow. You see the wind kind of calm a little bit. Let's see if we can slow it down here. Remember, differential thrust stops you from slipping. Slipping is what you would normally like to do. Hard on the throttle. Let's keep it alive, Brian. What a beauty. Holy cow. High wind shenanigans today. Okay. So watch this, guys. I put it back in safe mode, something I almost never do. And you want to know why? Because I want to throw this thing. I want to do a hand launch next. And this safe makes it so freaking easy, guys. Oh boy, in the grass. And I think we lost the canopy this time. Throttle cuts on. Safe landings are better than crash landings.
Yes.
But let's talk about this for a second. Okay, first things first. Is it windier than we would like for a maiden on a small plane? Absolutely it is. Did we just get back from Joe? No? Yes, we did. And we did not lose the canopy. We lost what appears to be
gear door.
The gear door. Okay, so gear door. How do we resolve the gear door issue? We can snap them back in, or we could take off the gear, which is what we're gonna do right now. I'm gonna take it. I told you we could put this in the pocket in the Unbox. Remember, this hook thingy, the spring goes back like that. That little round thing goes back, and then the hook point, there's a little arrow, and that arrow points out to the wingtip, okay? So just pop this out, super easy. Spirit of America, okay? Very good, very good. Accessible points to get into the EDFs. Steerable nose gear and drag detector. This is going to change the way that it flies, but only slightly, okay? So speaking of the way that it flies, is it gonna fly well? Camera crew, if you wouldn't mind holding my tail. Wonderful, I'm gonna just get the shade here so I can see. I'm at 4 minutes 16, and it looks like our battery power is at about 30%, okay? So I'm gonna do one hand launch, and we'll put it down into the tall grass and just see how things turn out. Should be pretty easy peasy. I'm gonna leave it in safe and see if we have hand launch assist or not. Throttle cuts off. Very cool. Differential thrust as discussed. I'm gonna keep the screen on the warning menu, and I'm gonna go launch like this. Full throttle, up angle. Should be no problem. The wind at my back for some weird reason. Okay, here we go. There it is. Oh, super easy. All right, still in safe. Camera crew and I are gonna stand on the runway, and we're gonna film in the grass. You good?
Yep.
So I don't know how many passes I'm gonna get, but I'm gonna see what I can get. And it's gonna look really good doing it. It's so dang cool, guys. We've never had a B-2, and I can tell you this, I am super excited to be doing one right now because it is really fun to fly. And boy, oh boy, those scale lines look so, so good. There's not much to see because it's so small, but there's so much to see because it's small and awesome. Okay, there's our low voltage warning. Oh boy. Okay, let's see if we can save it. Full throttle.
You got eyes on it?
Nope.
Up, straight up over the trees, out from you.
Okay.
Got it?
Quiet. Got it. Got it. Yes, guys, we saved it. We're safe. Lost sight of it, got kicked by a turbulent gust of wind, put it into safe, pulled it into a safe corridor, and here we are. Just gliding it around like nothing even happened. Camera crew, you good?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Okay, here we go. Coming around, going in front.
Okay.
Now we're super low on voltage, as you can hear. But you know, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. But remember, we're gonna lose our yaw authority. Camera crew, back toward the house. There you go, good job. Okay, now we got a huge gust of wind, of course. Camera crew, you good?
Yeah.
Stay where we are.
Okay.
You're perfect. Thank you. Good job, camera crew. Okay, we're gonna land it in the tall grass. Or we'll put it on the runway. There it is. Okay, throttle cuts on. Well, that was kind of a eventful maiden flight. We did all the things we wanted to do with the exception of installing. And guys, look at this. The grass when we left
was hardly anything.
Was not this tall.
No, it was not.
This is so crazy. All right, B-2 from E-flite. What a joy. That was amazing. And now we have some grass that has decided to invade our B-2. I'll just pull that out real quick. Look guys, zero damage, zero issues, perfect condition. And you wanna know why? Plastic here, plastic here, plastic on the inlets here and here. This thing is designed to be flown, and I cannot believe how good that thing did. I thought for sure this thing is gonna be toast as soon as we launch it. But let's be honest, it still has some limitations, okay? You're probably gonna plan on about 5 to 6 minutes of flight time on a long flight, okay? I pushed the limits, and all I've got to say is look at this wind. Guys, that is some heavy, heavy wind, and it's variable, and it's mid-afternoon, okay? Problem for us is we just got off of an airplane a couple hours ago, and now we're here.
And we've got nasty weather coming in.
Terrible weather.
For like a week.
So this might be the best opportunity we have to fly this little beauty. And I can tell you this now, after having flown it, it is super fun.
That's a truck.
It flies better than the SR-71. I think the fun factor is a lot bigger. I'm kind of surprised it flies better than the SR-71. I thought it was gonna be doggy and crazy and the type that you get just to put on the wall as a plaque, which is so cool. But at the end of the day, this actually flies reasonably well. I wish I had more basis for comparison for a B-2, but I have flown other wings. This is not gonna be an aerobatic crazy wing, period. End of story, stop, full stop. This is gonna be a scale looking flyer. There's a lot of reluctance to the yaw access in all modes, both safe and AS3X. They've got stuff happening in the flight controller that we're not necessarily privy to. And I can tell you that by the way that these ailerons are changing their position. Look at that. When I roll this way, look what happens. See that? Okay. Now in AS3X, look what happens. They are acting like V-tails, but they're not. So they're doing something creative that I'm not sure exactly what they've done. These do not split, obviously don't have air brakes. There are no flaps that I'm aware of. Even if you did a flapper on configuration, I don't know if that would matter. Obviously, I haven't dug into it, but it would be pretty sweet if you could do some sort of a crow. But I don't know that you're gonna really need it. This thing is pretty easy to get down. And that just came after this flight. You would think it didn't look very easy to get down. The reason it doesn't look easy to get down is because I had to hit this angle today. So normally our prevailing winds are down the runway or down this runway or that direction. Well, the damn runway is not done, so we can't launch from there. But the beauty of it is you don't need any damn runway. You can land in grass. And yes, this did really good. I am surprised by how easily it went into the grass. but just be careful when you get this type of thing like this here, where the seat is on the top of our grass. That stuff likes to get stuck between our surfaces, and it can actually bind your surface because these planes are so small. So just keep that in mind when you pick a place to land. Try not to land in like a barbed wire fence or something crazy that's gonna get stuck between your surfaces, okay? So for us, we like to land in as tall a grass as we can land in when we have a belly lander that's delicate, okay? This would do totally fine on a well-kept, well-manicured grass, but you need to have the wind in the right direction to be able to put it down still, okay? Now, the other thing too I'm gonna tell you is that this thing is easy launching. We have had a lot of wings that are incredibly difficult to launch. That makes a big difference, okay? You can hang on to it, you can launch it. They call it a skill level 2. Do I believe it's a skill level 2? Yes. Do I believe skill level 2 is like this wide and skill level 1 is this wide and skill level 3 is like infinite? Yes. I think skill level 2 is kind of like, it's just so wide that it's almost kind of like, yeah, you can fly it if you can fly other stuff. That's pretty much true. So if you're brand new, do you want to start with this plane? Absolutely not. I would not suggest it. There's too many nuances to wings like this. They're gonna get you in trouble, okay? If you have a big, broad, open field and it's dead calm, you fly this all day. It's gonna be no problem, okay? But if you're flying in wind like this, you need a pretty good plane to make it happen, okay? And this plane did a great job, okay? Full disclosure, I was flying and landing in safe. I almost never do, I mean, not the whole flight, just parts of the flight where I was landing and doing touch and goes. That was safe. I couldn't believe how well it worked. Usually safe limits you too much on pitch and roll. This plane, it did not. I felt like more in control in safe than I did in AS3X, which is so backward. And I just got done flying all week, you know?
Did the safe help to counteract the wind just enough?
The safe is riding on in addition to the AS3X.
Yeah.
So the AS3X was doing its thing. The differential thrust was doing its thing. But you got to remember, when you run your voltage down so low, throttle cuts off, it does a good job. Safe, it's more touchy. It's quicker. But it's also freaking out my battery now because it's giving me the chime, the death march, okay? So that being said, very easy to get to the battery, very easy to load the battery. This plane is very well done for what it is. That being said, it's still a wing and there's still limited flight control surfaces. So don't get this and expect to be doing 3D, okay? You're not gonna do it. And if you get up there and you figure out a way to make it do tumbles and spins and stuff like that, more power to you. I'm not doing it. I want this thing to survive. My alarms are going like crazy because this thing is like near dead. Yeah, let's unplug it.
Unplug it.
Okay, so real quick, the other thing too you might be asking, do I have to use a smart battery? The answer is probably not. You just gotta have the right type of plug, and this is a little bit of an unusual plug in that it's an EC20, okay? Excuse me, an IC20 rather, sorry. If you have the right drums from a motor, you could build adapters if you don't already have adapters. So you don't have to have a smart battery, but just be careful. The center of gravity is very specific, and it is hard to test on this particular model because it's curvy and there's just not like a really obvious way to do it, because even with the wheels on, normally we test with wheels down so that we can guarantee a landing configuration will work. But that is not the center of gravity there. It's more like up here, okay? So you need to measure that and just be kind of careful. It's
Kind
like
of
here.
right in front of the
It's
pockets.
in front of this.
Yeah.
So like about there. And if you look where that is, it is most definitely not where that line is. So don't be confused by the line. It's not a center of gravity mark. The other thing is I would 10 times to 1 on this plane, I'd prefer it be nose heavy. You may not be able to make this thing nose heavy as per the manual's recommended CG at least, okay? Because you can only go so far forward. And keep in mind, some of these Gen 2 30C 850 milliamp hour smart packs are a little bit lighter than others. Use the heavier pack, get it as far forward as you can. I'm not saying add weight, but you could if you needed to. That brings me back to my last point. And it's not a big point for most people. If you're flying in a Freya, no big deal. This thing is not sub 250. Ours was 14 grams too heavy in the lightest configuration. Then we tried to lighten it. We'll show it in the Unbox build radio setup at the very end of the video. If you're curious to see our findings, we'll elaborate on that, but you can fit a remote ID module in here, whether it's a Sky module or some other competitive offerings. They'll fit. Don't waste the space. Just fly it, okay? Do what is right for your environment, okay? Class G airspace, in a Freya, pretty sure you're gonna be fine, okay? So, truth is, it's limited in its capability, just like the real one. But it's also the one you're flying in your front yard, which is pretty dang cool. So, awesome plane from E-flite. Check it out, the B-2 Spirit. It's awesome, guys. Twin 30mm EDFs, not the old 23mm screamers that killed our ears. These ones are quite a little bit better, okay? It's not the F-14, it's not the SR-71, okay? Those are both in the same realm, but it's just as gorgeous, okay? My only issue is the same issue I would have if this was a larger scale, and that is a wing is only ever gonna do what a wing does, okay? That's an aircraft design feature, not a slight on E-flite or anybody who's making this plane right now. But I'll tell you what this plane doesn't do. Don't strap two jets onto it and try to screw around and fly it around. I don't think it'll do well, okay? And by the way, if you're marketing your product and you're leading off with that, that's a bad idea. We're here to bring people to the hobby, back to the hobby, to stay. That's why we tell you the full truth, nothing but the truth. So help us God. I'm Brian Phillips, RC. And we try to do it just as well as possible. And we want to be fair and inclusive to everybody that wants to be in this hobby. But I'm going to tell you something. It's not the easiest thing you can do in the world. And anybody who's telling you different is trying to sell you something. We are trying to sell you something. This plane. Buy it from the links. You help support Brian Phillips, RC financially with contributions via commissions from these companies. If you don't like this plane and you think it sucks because it's a wing or because it doesn't perform as good as you thought it might, that's why we exist, okay? So you can divert those monies to something you do think will perform, okay? But we don't pull any punches on this channel. We tell the full truth, nothing but the truth, like there's no LEDs. Who cares? It's small. It's not the end of the world. It would have been cool to see, okay? This thing is really good for what it does. For being as small and compact as it is, you want to talk about something that's easy to throw in the truck? You have it. It's right here. Easy to throw in the car. Are you kidding me? You might drop this between your seat and the center console where the cheese fries from last week are living, okay? It's that small, okay? You could probably put it in your pocket if you had a really big pocket, okay? This thing is awesome. It's not a boomerang, but you're gonna wanna do that. I think you should launch it this way, guys. If you go to boomerang, if you go to like, throw it like that, I think you're gonna overwhelm the differential thrust. You end up in tears and pain and suffering, okay? Also, I had to trim pretty fair amount to get this thing to fly level. In fact, I should scroll. Camera crew, grab my tail again, thank you. I'm gonna scroll over. Oh yeah, I trimmed all the way down, 100% down. So that means that I'll probably have to set up a little mechanical trim, but mechanical trim on this bad boy is gonna be complicated. And the reason it is because all four of these will have to go up just slightly if I choose to do it. However, I would rather play with it for a while before I mechanically trim this particular plane. You could also just do the primary elevator surfaces if you wanted to kind of like split the difference, but I'd like to have a little trim in my back pocket. The other thing is I could weigh this battery and compare it to the others that I'm using. If the others are heavier, I'm gonna need more trim. So just be aware, there's a few things you can do. I could also take the heavier battery and I could slip it back just a hair. It will wake up the elevator, which means my trim will need to be backed off probably, and then I'll have a little bit to give, okay? Couple of thoughts, you'll have to apply them to your own circumstances, but this plane is definitely not a beginner plane no matter what the other guys tell you. It's a fun plane. It's probably one of the easier planes that's in this type of configuration that you can get because we do have yaw we do have very good yaw stabilization. I can't believe it. But the reason that we lost sight of it there is because it got upset so bad that it couldn't keep up with the ES3X, largely because of, ding, 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 you guessed it, I ran the battery too low. So we lost yaw authority to a certain degree, and therefore it got upset, okay? Don't fly your batteries so low. That's why we said 6 minutes, okay? I flew considerably longer than that. All right, all those things said, hopefully we've all learned from Brian's shenanigans here on Brian Phillips RC. We try to bring you the full truth so that you can apply it to your situation, because everybody is in a different circumstance. If you got a twin turbine real jet sitting in your basement, you spent more than my family car, and you want to supplement the fleet with this, you'll still get a kick out of it, I promise. That's what's so cool about this. Just about anybody can fly it that flies, but you have to know how to fly to get into something like this. You have to have a little bit of basic information, basic head knowledge and skills at the sticks. Is it hard to fly? To be honest, it's really not that hard to fly, but you have to know to make it survive, okay? Good plane, good job E-flite. We need more amazing scale stuff like this, guys. Let's reward them for doing it. Keep in mind, if you want something with the tariffs and all that stuff going on, just order it. It's not going to be the end of the world, I promise you. There's a few more coming, okay? So stay tuned. Unbox, build, radio setup next, and we'll talk about the weight woes at the very end if you're curious. Camera crew, any thoughts?
I don't think so. It's pretty cool looking.
It's cool looking. It doesn't do everything, and you'll still love it.
Be nice to get some calm weather.
Yeah, if we could get some calm weather, it would really help. I think this thing, if we got like a calm period at the end of the night, like between sunset, which we're not slated to have,
no,
we're gonna slam another video in, because I'm gonna tell you what, this thing will show, look, and fly a lot better in calm than it did for our video. But I gotta say, that shows you that this thing could do it.
We're probably 9 gusting into the mid-teens right now, wind-wise.
But it's supposed to be in the 20s tomorrow.
Gusting into the mid-30s.
So if you're buying this at Jonal 2026, down at the E-flite booth, okay, and you get it on super sale or something like that, great, congratulations, good job getting a deal. But at the end of the day, if it's 30-mile-an-hour gusts and they're flying some big turbine and you're like, well, it did good and this didn't.
Don't do that.
You got to remember, max speed as a relationship to the wind speed equals qualification or disqualification.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. This thing is sweet. It does what it does, and it does it pretty dang good for its size, but it's still limited. All right, stay tuned. Unbox next. Thanks for watching, guys. Oh, if you want to support Brian Phillips RC, you want to buy one, get it from the links in the video description below. If you don't want to buy it from the links in the video description below, but you still want one and you want to support us, we have other links that are master links down below as well. And if none of those meet your fancy, but you still want to get us some support, there's lots of ways to do it. Patreon, be a monthly supporter. YouTube members, thanks for being a monthly supporter. YouTube super thanks for one-time support. PayPal if you don't like being in those clubs. And then of course we have a P.O. box if you've got goodies to send. Every once in a while something shows up there. We don't check it often, so give us a heads up if you do. That's all we got for you. So much more right around the corner. In fact, it's coming right now. Stay tuned. You don't even need to start a new video. Oh, but one more thing. If you want to see something different and you're like, hey, it's not my cup of tea. I get it. I get it. I get it. Check out BrianPhillipsRC.com or bprc.me if you don't know how to spell my name first or last. You can go there. That's a short link. You can find exactly what you're looking for, sorted by type, brand, affiliate, and you'll be able to find it and watch it right now. We have like 3,000 videos waiting for you, patiently. So much more. Unbox next. YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. Just back from Jonal 2025. Very cool experience. And we had this little beauty sitting on the doorstep. Actually, we knew it was here. And we're like, when does it due? So we're gonna show you something. Normally we don't do this unbox build radio setup here on Brian Phillips RC. This is the part where we open it. We set up the radio transmitter, battery, things like that that we always have to do. Sometimes we have to do a little bit more. This is a smaller plane. Should be a pretty easy setup, but I wanna warn you, all planes are subject to possibility of shipping problems. And we hope that this is not a problem, but I just wanna point out something. If there is a problem, I can see the plane in there. That is one of the first and only times that we've seen damage go that far. So we're gonna see what happens here. We're gonna hope for the best, cross our fingers, say a quick prayer. If you're watching the video, it's probably already happened, just based on reality. But I'm very excited for this one, and so I'm nervous that we got some damage. It might have made it through. I hope we didn't.
Horizon packaging is usually...
It's usually very good, but you can't stop FedEx from throwing it through the window.
Nope.
All right, without further ado, the Micro B-2 Spirit 30mm twin. Looks absolutely fantastic from the packaging. Very neat. Obviously, this is in the customary E-flite packaging here. That's gonna give you a nice carrying case. Ours has some extra decoration here, as you can see. They call it a skill level 2, which is nice. It could be a skill level 3 if it's like others we've seen in the past that are ultra micro-ish looking, beautiful, ultra detailed models. This is 33.6 inches wide, 853 millimeters of width. And you'll notice that there is no vertical stabilizer on this model. Evidently there's a free and included clear vertical stab if you want to use it. We're gonna show it hopefully with and without, but super excited to see this thing. It looks amazing. Without further ado, unboxes for ultra micros are very simple because you open it and it's there. All right, guys, this is the time. Moment of truth. FedEx, have you wronged me again? Oh, thank God, look.
Oh my goodness.
Went through there.
So lucky.
This was taped right next to where the damage went through. We don't hardly ever see damage from boxes, especially not ultra micros. So the other thing too to keep in mind, and I gotta say this because this is an early sample, this has already gone through product development as a test sample. And so sometimes the packaging is not as premier as you guys will expect to get when you order yours. By the way, you wanna support Brian Phillips RC, easiest way to do it. Click the links in the video description below and you can get one ordered. And it'll help support us financially with gifts and contributions of commissions from these different companies that we work with, whether it's Horizon or other brands. We're gonna start with the little things. Okay, here we go. All right, pretty cool. I wonder if those are the vertical stabilizers. Those are gear door. Absolutely fantastic looking landing gear. Check this out. Spirit of America, Merca. Okay, so this reminds me of the nose gear on the, well, what is the nose gear on that?
On which one?
Is it the same?
The SR-71?
The SR-71? Yeah, it's got that little, look at the weld though. That weld is so small. How do they do that? That's so dinky. It's gotta be one of those laser welders. And then of course we've got a nut that's made of metal. It's torqued down, I can tell, so it's not gonna come loose. And then softer tires, guys. You see what I'm talking about? Soft tires make a huge world of difference. Yeah, these are gear doors, okay? So these gear doors are gonna introduce a tremendous amount of drag, so I'm hoping we can fly without. Mine were tangled up, my landing gear. And it looks like they're gonna have the customary droop angle, which is pretty cool, but then a little bit of spring. It's actually a pretty big spring for an ultra micro style model. Is this actually an ultra micro?
This is just a micro.
Micro. Sorry, I stand corrected. My apologies, guys. Let me show you the difference between micro and an ultra micro real quick. If you're brand new to Brian Phillips RC, we do a lot of these deep dives. This is a micro. That's not an ultra micro. It's too big to be an ultra micro. But you can fly it sub 250 if you want with the right type of battery. This would be a micro because it's small, but it's not an ultra micro. That's not to take anything away from ultra micro extreme would be like this Waco, which is one of our favorites in our family. My son flies the white one and the red one, which is sitting over the under the other wing of the F7F. And this one I fly, mostly because he chose he wanted to fly that one. So I always come out and I'm like, oh man, that looks really fun. So I fly this. And really, really good. This is an ultra micro. And you're like, is there really a difference? This is probably one of the closer size jumps that you'll see because some of the ultra micros are about half again as big as this. So if you get the twin otter in the ultra micro, you're gonna be a twin otter and it's slightly smaller than this if I recall. Don't mark my words on the exact dimensions, but I can say the Waco is big. Like for instance, the Pitts is quite a bit smaller than that. It's squished down and compressed, but it's a little bit taller, okay? So ultra micros are ultra micros, micros are micros, this is a micro, okay? Hopefully that was elaborate enough for most of you to understand. There is a certain amount of ambiguity there, okay? So we've got north, you see the N on there? That's pretty cool for the magnet. And of course the canopy, detailed water transfer decals, not stickers, which is nice. You get in a size like this, you got to do something light. Okay, so mine's already been cut. Oh, the other thing is too, if you're getting this brand new, obviously not a product sample, you'll notice that sometimes underneath there will be a manual. Ours has the manual. We never know if there's gonna be a manual in ours because sometimes they get stripped out and they forgot to put them back in. This one does have the manual. And we also got the retail packaging, which is kind of cool. A lot of times we get white boxes, okay? So the white boxes, of course, leave you guys hanging a little bit on exactly what it's gonna look like coming out of the package. One of the reasons we really like the E-flite brand, especially if you're a brand new pilot or returning pilot, is that we have good, consistent documentation. And I'm not talking about Chinese documentation like we get on some of these helicopters, which, by the way, not to take anything away from the helicopters, but the documentation on some of these brands are terrible.
Yeah.
E-flite does a fantastic job of communicating the most critical information and not overwhelming you with stuff that isn't. But let's be honest, there's a reason channels like ours exist, and it's not because the documentation, even from E-flite, is the best that you could get. We make documentation that you don't have to read, which means men might actually look at it. That's a joke. That's an admission of guilt. However you want to look at it, I don't know. So we're gonna open this up. Interestingly enough, the canopy is not stored on the airplane in the stowed package, which is kind of weird. Foam to protect the foam from the foam, and we're gonna go ahead and get down and pull this thing out. Now guys, I gotta say, I am super excited to see this. I've never had a B-2. I've always thought, yeah, there's no way that thing can fly well. This thing is supposed to fly well, and I am very excited to see it doing it. Okay, so first things first, what are your first impressions of the size?
It's really small.
My first impressions are, this looks beautiful. And evidently we have number 4, so I'm gonna just pull that out so it's out of the way. So it's sample number 4. I like the size, it's easy to handle. It looks absolutely fantastic. I cannot wait to put the canopy on. All right, so guys, here we go, the moment of truth. Oh, IC3 connector here, as you can see. Excuse me, IC2, yeah. IC2. I apologize, guys, that's an IC2, excuse me, it's an IC2, not an EC2.
Right.
And it's definitely not an EC3, okay? Looks like some extra plugs here, not sure what those are gonna be used for. One motor, and that's gonna turn the steerable nose gear, which is optional, okay? And then twin EDF, so electric ducted fan. This just plops down. There is no retention like clip or anything. And then look at the suction tubes, the inlets. That is so cool. I love that. Now, by the way, this is dark gray, but it's not as dark as I think it might be on the full scale, which is probably a good thing, because if it's too matte, it would be incredibly difficult to see. Okay, so I'm not sure how they set up the control surfaces, but I assume these are gonna act like elevators and these like ailerons. But also they might have some sort of a crow function. The cool thing is, and this is a little bit, we don't ordinarily get information about these beforehand, but we just happened to be with Horizon a few days ago. So we were able to talk to them a little bit about this, got really excited about it. Oh, by the way, the fin would go in there if you used it. Now, I didn't see a clear fin, by the way, because they did mention that. So there's some cool mixes, but you don't need to do anything fancy to use those said mixes. I'm gonna do a quick look through and just double check. There's supposed to be a clear fin. I suppose it's not completely impossible that somebody pulled ours out and didn't leave it for us to use.
I only see those 2 gear door. I don't see it.
But yours should come with, and by the way, the landing gear, let's show you how hard it is to put them in. There should be one here. Now, I don't know if the spring goes forward or backward. I'm gonna go with probably backward. I'm not gonna press it hard, okay? These are just pressure fit. Does that look like that's gonna line up? Yeah, that looks like it's gonna line up right. So I'll just pop these in. Oh yeah, really easy to put in. Sometimes we don't see that, and I would say that that would be a valid complaint if there were a complaint to be had, is that it's too hard to put the landing gear in.
So that's super easy.
And that was super easy. Now I'm assuming I got that right. We'll go ahead and double check the manual here in a second, but nice fit, good wheels up, wheels down. It looks sweet. Obviously, We have the gear door as well. Let's see what the gear door look like. So we have 3 gear door, okay? This one clips onto the nose gear, and then of course these clip onto the mains.
Well, and it's super nice when it's toolless, because then if you're out at the field and you want to go back and forth,
yeah,
it's easy to do.
That's right. Now, one issue we've had in some micros and ultra micros is that sometimes it's really hard to get the landing gear on. This goes down and clips here, and that will help reconfirm for you if you got your landing gear door on the correct way. That one's on the correct way. Now, just notice that there's gonna be a tremendous amount of drag that's created by that. It's the smallest of the 3 gear door, but just keep in mind, these ones are gonna work almost like a vertical stabilizer as well. And I don't see anything clear in between there. I'm just okay. Assuming maybe it got pulled out on our early sample. So you guys are gonna have one, we didn't, our apologies. So we obviously won't be able to show that. It's supposed to fly fine without it. That's what we were told. Oh, I got these, I must have had, no? They go at an angle maybe? That's definitely the right way.
Does it go past the wheel?
Does it? I'm just trying to see if it goes past the wheel or not. It definitely touches the landing gear. I wonder if I got the landing gear in backward. Maybe these are supposed to be the other way around. Let's try. That's got to be what's up. Yeah. Yep. Then that clears. I bet that's what it is. They looked pretty dang good. So we'll have to double check on that here in a minute, camera crew. Okay. When we get to the manual, usually we look at the manual after we screwed it up just to see.
Yeah, then someone will read it.
Yeah, yes. That's right. All right, so let's see how this fits. Very good. Oh, that's so gorgeous.
That's really nice though.
It looks so sweet. So I have to say, guys, this is so beautiful. And let's talk about plastic for a minute. Plastic, 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 plastic bill, plastic, okay? Look at that bill. You do not want that foam, okay? No. It will not hold up. Plastic, plastic, yep, plastic. All the way down, plastic, sharp tips. Plastic, foam, all the way around, foam, foam. This is all foam, this is all foam. Plastic receiver, foam, foam. Okay, perfect. All right, so the next move, as you know with an Ultra Micro, is to have the correct battery, okay? So now we do know what the battery is on this one as well, because like I said, we just happen to be working with Horizon here the last couple of days as we were at Jonal 2025. It's a very exciting, super amazing event. And this one flies on 850 milliamp 3S, which is one of the first smart batteries. You can tell it's smart because where the battery cells end, there's a little bit of a data control circuit in here. And you can also tell, secondly, because there's no balance lead, there's just the main discharge lead. It has this gray cable, that's your data lead. Now, if you don't know how to charge these, first things first, you could start as small as the S155. We like to use the S2200, works really good. And then of course the S1200, there's S1400. There's a bunch of other sizes that are kind of in the middle. But if you're looking for a really good economy option that's gonna do 2 batteries at once, 200 watts total, the S2200 is gonna be it. And when you see the price tag, don't fall out of your chair because it's still cheap when you're talking about 2. This is a single 155 watt channel. So remember, don't forget, you need to have either this adapter, like this, it's gonna go to EC3 from an EC2.
IC.
Thank you. IC2. You could actually use
an EC3
here. Okay, like that. And then that'll allow you to plug into these, because these chargers all house 2 different plugs. You've got the EC3, excuse me, the IC3, or the EC5 or the IC5 will go into this. And just so you guys know the difference between an IC5 and an EC5, here's the difference. I'll just show this as an example. This is an IC5, okay? This is an EC5. E-flite connector 5. That's, okay, see? Same pin size, same socket size. This has the data pin. This does not, okay? So when you're looking at those side by side, that's how you can tell. Now they have this new adapter out that's like this, okay? Which is totally sweet, because then you can use those little ultra micro batteries and you get the data pin passed through if you're using it on a particular aircraft. So just as an example, I'll show you, you can also plug that onto any of these batteries, both to use in a smaller helicopter, for instance, where you don't have a lot of room, like this Blade Revo 235 Revo, which is really good. and that'll save a lot of room if you need to. But I think more often than not, you're gonna be going the other direction because you're gonna be using a bigger battery and then you're gonna be going down in size. But you can see this will just plug right in and it's gonna go ahead and start charging. So the idea is if you're going to charge, you need that data line to pair it up to the charger. So if you don't have the data line, it's not gonna work. Full disclosure, those were charged off camera, so that's why it went to full charge right away. So these things are really cool. It's new, that's just came out here recently. And so you'll wanna pick some of those up if you wanna have them in your bag of tricks. Now, the other thing I find that to be really handy for is something like this on your, you can plug this in, and if you're gonna be doing a ton of flying with these small EC2 connectors, then you can come in to your XBC 100 checker, okay? Which is really nice if you wanna be able to do that and save space in your tool bag rather than having another lead. Although the lead is handy for some things. It just depends on what your application is. We wanna bring that stuff so you're aware of it. All right, so real quick, another trick, if you have a battery that doesn't have Velcro, I love to do this. I do this all the time for small ultra micro setups. I take tape and I wrap it around the battery and just put a little bit of Velcro onto that because I hate putting Velcro on my packs. Now, many of you think I'm a nut job and that's fine. We can agree to disagree about that. You don't have to do it this way, but just one tip. I'm not gonna need to do it on this particular plane because it has a nice strap that goes around the pack. But for extra retention, you can many times do that and it really does help. But look at the size here, okay? Now, full disclosure, you're not gonna be fitting a 1300 in here that I can see. In fact, now that I've said that out loud, let's just show the people. Here's a 1300 milliamp 3S, okay? That thing might actually fit, okay? Let's see if it does. We'll undo the Velcro this time, okay? Then we'll just pull this open. Now, keep in mind, you've got the wrong type of plugs, so you'd have to have adapters if you're gonna do this. Oh, buddy, that does almost fit.
Almost.
Just popped off my gear door with my middle finger. Sorry, guys. Let's see.
You're so close to
See, that's what I'm talking about. I didn't think that thing would go. I would not recommend it. It's gonna screw up your center of gravity. So yeah, the 853S is what you need, okay? So we'll wrap that in there nice and tight. And one other trick that we do on a lot of our planes is we like to use the shelf liner to help give a little bit of resistance to slippage. Okay, so now if your nose gear pops off like that, don't worry, just the gear door. Just pop it back in there. I actually would far prefer this pop off easy than be really difficult to install. Our experience with ultra micros is that when the gear door are really hard to install, you just tend to not use them. Case in point, P51, ultra micro, Voodoo, okay? Gear door, really difficult to get on. At the end of the day, it just discourages us from using the feature, okay?
Right.
That may not be your experience, but my personal experience is when you're at the field, if you have to fiddle with it too hard, you're just gonna tend to leave them off. Now, you may never fly the gear with this anyway. All right, so now that we've discussed some of the basic features about this model, we did notice one thing. We did a little bit of reading, and you'll notice that the landing gear, the hook portion, it technically points in, but the manual says it points out, meaning that it points out toward the wingtip. And that does provide for clearance from the gear door. So if you have this the other direction, it won't work as good because it's gonna push into the gear door, okay? So same thing over here. So we were correct in our assessment that the spring goes back on all of them. And then secondarily, the other consideration is that you don't want the hook, you don't want that to be going in, okay? Because then it won't line up, you see?
Right.
Okay, so it is a little bit ambiguous because in the manual it says the hook should point toward the wing. Well, the hook is actually doubled back like this, which makes it a bit confusing. No big deal, you'll figure it out in 10 seconds. Okay, so beautiful plane. If you notice an abrupt change in pace, that's because we're gonna talk about the sub 250 status at the end, and you guys can stay tuned for that. For now, we're gonna jump straight into radio setup. The radio setup, of course, is gonna be done on the NX10. Now, you might be using an iX20 or an iX14, and that's fine, should be very easy to follow along. NX7 would also be another good choice. The NX7E is a great offering with amazing features for a lot less money than you can get into an NX10. So if budget's your primary concern, then be watching and get yourself an NX7. which by the way, I believe they're offering a black edition now.
Yeah, they do.
Which is ironic. And by the way, I thought that was the ugliest thing ever, full disclosure. I think it's kind of cool looking. And when you turn it on, those lights glow and it's really neat.
Yep.
Okay, and our son really likes it. Frame-wise, it's just ever so slightly smaller, but it still fits good in the hand. I still love having rubber surrounds here. And so I'm gonna tell you what, there's not a huge difference in quality, but one of the biggest features that you cannot quantify easily is rubber grips. Make a big difference in terms of droppability, okay? So if you're buying one for your kid, think about that, okay? I rarely drop my transmitters. I've been using transmitters, filming videos for 10 years almost. I've dropped one time, broke one A switch, okay? And then I fixed it. No big deal. All right, so radio setup, the Micro B-2 Spirit Twin 30mm EDF. All right, so first thing we have to do is open the manual. Of course, the manual does articulate how to put things in, which is kind of nice. So if you don't want to listen to my elaborate explanation about what to do with those, this is what the optional vertical stabilizer, okay? That's what it looks like, okay? Now, if you're like us and you've lost yours too, you could probably cut one out of clear plastic and just stick it in there. The other thing is, I don't know if they forgot to put it in. I'm not sure what the deal is, but we'll figure it out one way or another. The other thing too is if you're at the flight field and you don't have a plastic material, I just thought of another great idea. These are ideas that I want to pass along to people because I'm thinking about what might happen to somebody that's out at the field, okay? Take this E-flite warranty card, okay? Sticker. I wonder if you could get away with using that. It might be stiff enough. You could take some scissors and cut it, but this is kind of a double-sided sticker. So I don't know if that's strong enough. Just an idea that came to me. All right, guys. So in order to do transmitter setup, we have to create a new model. Listen, this is one of the most critical and important steps that you could get value out of watching Brian Phillips RC. We're gonna teach you how to set up your transmitter, which is one of the most expensive tools you're gonna have. Okay, so first things first, on page 4 from the manual, okay, this is the manual, you're gonna find this. This is the quick setup. My camera crew has creased it, or somebody else had creased it previous to us. Nope, it's just really tight on the binding, okay? So we wanna be looking at the NX series. If you have a DX, this is the section you wanna be looking at. And then if you need to pause the video, of course, you can pause the video and see what you need to see, okay? So now this is a special plane. It's got some special mixing. So you'll notice we have these weird control surfaces on the B-2. So it's not a standard elevator, it's not a standard aileron. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and follow the instructions this time, something we don't always do. Cancel and back, we're gonna scroll all the way down, way down, way down to add new model. That's an acro, so we'll create. It's gonna take longer on mine than it will on yours because we have so many models of model memory. It's supposed to be limited to 250, but we have a lot more than that. Okay, not sure why that is, but Airware has not crashed yet. When it does, we're gonna go back to an NX8, which is brand new, waiting and patiently waiting for me to start using it. Why? Because I don't use the sliders. I don't care about Hall Effects gimbals. That might be a deal breaker for some people that are doing heavy 3D. You really want the Hall Effects. I don't need them, okay? You might, okay? All right, so model select, that's where we just came from. Model type, we've already set. Model name, this is where you would scroll down and see 243 colon, and you're like, you said way more than 250. We are well over, what, like 60 or so in the previous numbering matrix there, because this NX8 is like our 4th or 5th NX. I think we started with 6, then 8, then 8, then 10, and then we're gonna go back to an 8. So it'd be very confusing. All right, so that being said, oh, and by the way, if you're using an NX and you haven't updated your firmware, get it done. There's 20 channels on me. And if you're still stuck with 10, you need to upgrade your firmware. It is the best firmware upgrade ever. That's my transmitter talking. Okay, all right, so we're gonna type in B2. This one should be pretty quick, but we'll do that off camera and come back. All right, so we got the name typed in, the B2 Micro Twin 30mm. Okay, so we'll hit back. And if you guys are brand new to the hobby, you're probably wondering, why did you call it a 30mm? That's because the fan blade size on the EDF, which stands for electric ducted fan, EDF, electric ducted fan, is 30mm wide, okay? So that's how we size class these airplanes. So if this was a prop-driven plane, which it wouldn't be prop-driven, then you would usually go by the wingspan. And if it was a gas-powered plane, then you would go by a combination of the size and then like how big the motor is. So, all right, continuing on, or the scale of the plane compared to the full scale. All right, so aircraft style. It says right here, normal and normal on step 4. Okay, so that's pretty simple. This is a super simple model to set up. Okay, and then next, I'm going to select an image. Why don't we just do that one? Because I know there's not a B-2. All right, and then flight mode setup. I don't know that we need a flight mode, so we're not going to set that up. We're going to walk out. We're going to set up throttle cut first. Okay, so throttle cut, highlight it, and then switch, exercise switch H. And then you can see down here in this little corner, you can see a monitor. See how it's not moving? It says -100. When I unlock it, watch what happens. It springs to life and it starts responding to my stick input. Okay, so there we go. So that's good. So I'm gonna go back in, just double check. Yep, everything's working. All right, so then we want to set up rates and expo. Now, this is the only place in the manual that I'm going to change my mind just to meet my special flying demands, because we fly everything from Maiden Flights. We've got 1, 2, and 3, okay? So those are going to show you the 3 settings that you want if you want to do it exactly as per the manual. So there's a high and a low rate. These are all 3 position switches. So I'm going to show you what I'll do. Is I'm going to tie all of them to one switch because I want to make it as easy as possible. Switch F. I'm going to set this one to 5. Okay, so 5% expo, that's our highest rate. Then I'm going to set this to 10. That's the normal high rates. Okay, so actually I have a slightly higher rate. And then I'm going to set this one to a little bit more expo, not 100. I want to go to 20. And then I'm going to drop the rate down to 90. And you're probably thinking to yourself, but Brian, why don't you just do 70 and 5 like the manual says? Well, there's nothing wrong with that, but just keep in mind this whole 7, 8, and 9 is highly subjective. You do whatever you want. But in my case, I like to have a middle setting that's going to be like the normal flight. Then, if I want to make it more touchy, if I'm doing some 3D or if it's like extra crazy conditions, I can do that. And then I want to be able to half it. So that's going to roughly half it. But we only give up 10% of our overall throws. Some people like to do low rates. I understand that you like it, but I don't like giving up the throw. If there's a problem and you have extra expo, you can still get 90% of the output if you pull that stick all the way to the edge of the perimeter, okay? So now, but if you lower the rates to 70, you're never gonna get more than 70 no matter what you do. So we're gonna just duplicate that for all 3 of the primary control surface, or, you know, axis of control. So pitch, roll, and yaw. Okay. So very good. So we'll set it like this. And guys, just to be totally clear, there are a million ways to skin a cat. And I'm sorry, my scrolly wheels give me a little bit of trouble today. I probably need to clean it with some alcohol. We haven't done that for a while, and we could almost do that on camera and show people how we do it. I had some people that were lending me their transmitters when we were at Joe Knoll, and I had one in particular that was really jumpy like that. And in fact, why don't we go ahead and clean it? We'll show people how we do it real quick. Brian Phillips loves alcohol and Q-tips. All right, so that's the whole setup, guys. It's done, but there's more, and there will be more. So the scrolly whirly pulley wheel is giving me a problem. So I'm just gonna walk out of the menu. We got all 3 set up. So this is our higher rates. Then we have the neutral kind of like starting point. And that's a doubling effect from the highest rates, okay? Then that's even more by a factor of about double. So the middle is about the middle. And the top is the most touchy. And the middle is the middle. And the bottom is the most soft, okay? So we're gonna go right there, right? So I can walk out. We did that for pitch, roll, and yaw. Now, they don't tell us to set a timer, but I'm gonna set a timer too, okay? So let's go into timer. Let's do 5 minutes. Let's make it 1 out, active. Anything over 25% is gonna start the time. Yeah, see, it's acting good because it knows I've got the alcohol.
It's
like,
prepared, yeah.
Like, hey you. And then we're gonna use these and we're gonna use this, but we'll come right back for that. At 1 minute, I want a warning in the terms of a voice. 20 seconds, I want nothing. At 10 seconds, I want a countdown in the form of a voice, and I want a tone and vibrate. at expiration with the tone every minute thereafter. You may choose to do it different. Okay, so now that that's all set up, throttle cuts on, I'm gonna show you how to clean it. So alcohol, this is just regular run-of-the-mill. It's like Members Marks. It's like Sam's Club,
yeah.
but you could get it at Walmart or whatever. It's usually about like $2 or $3, right?
Who knows what it is now? It's probably like $27.
Yeah, $27, guys. Okay, so you see how I just poured it on there and I let it drip off. It's not like you have to do that, but if you have a screw-off cap, I fill the cap and I dip into the cap. So you got a little bit of extra alcohol here. As you can see, it's hard to see. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm actually just gonna power this off to be on the safer side. Okay, so once it's powered off, we'll let it actually de-energize. And it shouldn't really matter, okay? So watch this. See how it's dark? Okay, I like to do a little bit, and then do a little bit more, 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 and then do a little bit more. And you guys are gonna notice there's a pattern here. And then I'm gonna do a little bit more, and I'm gonna do a little bit more, and I'm gonna keep doing a little bit more, and then I'm just gonna roll it a little bit and do a little bit more. Look at how dirty and gross that is.
Gross.
You guys see that? Look at that. Yummy. That's beautiful.
Gross.
So then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a fresh, clean one. And we're just gonna get that a little bit more soaked. You see how it's got like a drip rolling off the end? Okay, that's a little bit more than you probably want, so I'm gonna use it. Ready? And you're like, oh, but Brian, you're gonna screw up your transmitter. No, I'm not. It's just, it's gonna buy us time. Eventually this thing will fail if you do enough wear and tear and spitting on it. I think it's the spitting on it that's the worst. But you see, it's starting to get clean. You see, it's not getting darker now. Okay, so every time I get a little bit of residue, that's great, that cleans it. But then I'm gonna work this back and forth, back and forth. You want to scrub just a hair. So, and that's gonna wipe the inside. And I'm kind of pressing and working, okay? Now, I'm gonna take a fresh and clean Q-tip and I'm gonna just go a little bit more, okay? Let's get a nice healthy drip on there, okay? Nice healthy drip. And we're gonna put a little bit on there and we're gonna work it and a little bit and work it and a little bit and work it and so on and so forth. And then eventually we're gonna get back around to where you can kind of tell it was wet, but it's kind of dries quick because it's alcohol. And then I'm gonna work it. And this is getting really sticky again, you know, like it's got a lot of texture to it and it's got a lot of feel to it. But you can see we're a little bit dark and we're totally dry now, okay? So I'm gonna go just one more, and it's just because I happen to get 2 Q-tips. We should be good. Try not to get those little fibers inside. That'll screw with you too. But if you ever go out in the rain and you do this, you might find that it makes your scrolly wheel kind of start freaking out on you like what it's doing to me. And so I just do this occasionally. I like the scrolly wheel. It's one of the reasons that I'm still using this over the IX lineup. I don't even know if they have a scrolly wheel.
Well, and I think a lot of it is just like the oil buildup from your hands. And we do a lot of scrolling because we do a lot of radio setup.
Yeah. Okay, so now we can take, now the other way you can do it if you don't have access to Q-tips is just get it on the rag like this and just go back and forth, okay? Click it a few times, work it. Spin it, click it a few times, just work it back and forth, and you also notice there's an up and down movement there. You wanna kind of mitigate that, work through it a little bit, and then so on and so forth. Just keep doing that, and then once you get a little bit of moisture on there. Now, what I don't suggest is going full on alcohol in, okay? I don't think that's a good idea, but in a really tight circumstance, you could maybe get 1 drip. I'm gonna show you 1 drip like that, okay? 1 drip, then work it. Because remember, alcohol dries quick, but you still, you know, there's a certain amount of conductance. The dirtier it is, the more likely it is to actually conduct. Okay, so now I'm gonna work this, work this, work this. Oh, try not to suck the thing in. You see what happened there? It pulled the edge in. But you'll notice it's gonna get nice and like good, sticky, resistive feel to it. And you're gonna actually get this thing very clean, and it's gonna hold really good, but it's also gonna work, okay? Because there's an encoder in there and it just tells the difference between movement left or movement right. Now, this little bit of residual, I can kind of clean the screen, clean some of this while we wait for it to dry out. I'll just go around. That's why we turned it off, guys, because then I can wipe all this spit and grossness off of here, okay? See how that works? It works really nice on these because it makes that matte black look nice. Actually works pretty good, doesn't it?
Yeah,
look at that. And since we're not turned on, it doesn't screw up our model and we don't have a bunch of problems. And remember, just that little tiny bit of alcohol, you don't want to go totally nuts on it because you might actually have problems if you got a lot of scratches here, okay? Mine has tons of scratches. And if you had compressed air, it'd be best you blow off those little fuzzies, okay? So there, now that we're done with that, we're gonna go ahead and basically clean up by moving that out of the way. Then we're gonna turn it back on and we should be golden for a while. I have to do that once every couple of months. And the big thing is you just don't wanna have a ton of like liquid alcohol in there because it'll basically defeat the system from working. All right, so now as you can see, click, click, click. So we just wanna work it. There's only a couple of menus, dang it.
Oh,
click,
yeah.
How about this?
There you go, you can scroll there.
So I just wanna see if we can get it to where we've got good sensitive movement. It's when you change directions that it likes to freak out. And I wouldn't be surprised if we have a little bit of double bumping here and there, but as you can see, it's working nice. Is it perfect? Not as much as a brand new one, but it's pretty dang good. And it did largely resolve the problem. Okay, so back to the video about the B-2. If you guys are here for the B-2, you're in the right place. It's Brian Phillips. Sorry, so we always add little details like that because people need help. All right, so we're gonna plug this in and we're gonna bind it. They didn't talk at all about binding in the radio setup. That's interesting. Plug it in. You got a fast flash, red. Okay. I'm gonna click my transmitter. Redding. Whoa, it's the police are coming for you. That's when you know you're ready to bind. Bind them up in the handcuffs. And then this is gonna go to blue. Auto configuring. Just wait for the auto configure of the telemetry. All right, good. All right, so real quick, we'll go over to monitor. You can start seeing all sorts of stuff now. Does that RX really say 1.7 volts?
Is that your transmitter?
No, that's the receiver. What the heck is 1.7 volts? Oh, that's the min-max. Okay, pretty cool. Oh yeah, there we go. Battery, that's why you don't need to set a timer. Okay, so then we're out. So there's not like any other, avian menus or anything. Okay, so now we can go ahead and flip the gear. Red, change. There's blue, there's red. One of them is safe, one of them is not, okay? Now, full disclosure, since this is a product sample, this probably already has been initiated to act with safe or not. Yours may not. I'm gonna show you how to do it. Elevator up. Oh, cool. Elevator down. Very nice. Roll left, roll right. So it looks like similar to like a Televon configuration. There's nothing there that really changes. Yeah. So you know what I think? It almost acts like differential, but it's not because this thing is all fully controlled by the flight controller, okay? So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna click and scroll down to forward programming. It's gonna fail to connect if it doesn't have forward programming as a choice. And it did. So that means we don't have forward programming in this UMX model. So no big deal there. And so what I wanna do is I wanna be able to tell between safe and AS3X. So I'm gonna move the sticks down and to the right. And you can tell that this condition changed, but it's sort of ambiguous. I can't tell. So I'm gonna flip it upside down. So with the blue light on, kind of hard to tell on camera. You can tell it's obviously trying to auto level because when you get past the center, it goes full bore the other way. Now, the other thing you can look at is look at the elevator. When I point the nose down, it's trying to pull out of a dive. When I point the nose up, it's trying to pull out of the climb, okay? So, with that off, it's obviously not doing anything, and I haven't given throttle. So throttle cut's now off. Twin 30s. Now it's working. Differential thrust, folks. So differential thrust is going to use the yaw moment here because there is no rudder, but you still have a rudder. You still have a rudder. That's so cool. Weird. So we have differential thrust. Now with safe, throttle cuts off, okay? Oh, even on the yaw access. That's pretty cool. We don't normally see that. Okay, so throttle cut is off. Excuse me, Throttle cut is on now. And I just want to make sure I get my safe and AS3X set right. Now, I'm just going to tell you something I'm going to do. You don't have to do this to make this work, okay? Go to monitor. So click over 1. You can tell with safe on, okay, so it's just gear. So when the gear switch, okay, so auto leveling is true with the gear switch back. So you can see gear. So at plus 100, we're in safe. AS3X is minus 100, okay? So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna scroll to all the way down to system setup, disconnect RF. This is another thing you guys can do. You don't have to do it. It's just a trick I like to do because I don't like my switch to be on gear because I accidentally pull the gear and then this thing will go ring into safe, okay? I'm gonna set it to switch D, okay? Acknowledge it by clicking, I almost forgot. Then I'm gonna go to spoken flight modes. Okay, so in this flight mode, I want it to be AS3X. So highlight, cancel, cancel. And then I'm gonna scroll in the letters AS3X. Now this is not AS3X Plus, this is just AS3X still. At some point, maybe there'll be a firmware update, but for now, the micros have AS3X still, which by the way, AS3X Plus is a market improvement. It's very strange. That Plus makes a big difference. Now I'm gonna change this to read. Oh, we can see if the scrolly's working good now. As you can see, this is why we wear out our scrollies. It's for doing this for thousands of videos. Most people don't. They would just make their own list of like 4 things that they pick all the time. Well, we wanna show how it works with like a regular brand new transmitter. Okay, so AS3X mode. And then normally I would set this to off, but I'm guessing it's probably also gonna be AS3X because that'd be the default setting, and I don't think I have a way of turning it off. So I'm actually just gonna type it in twice so that there's no ambiguity. And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, why do you need to know that it's AS3X? Because I go to fly-ins and I use somebody else's transmitter and I have no freaking clue what's going on when they hand me a transmitter. And then I go into the setup and I'm like, oh my goodness, you've never watched your Unbox build radio setups because I cannot figure out what the heck you're doing. And that happens a lot. That's because you don't have to do it the way we set it up. But I'm gonna tell you something, guys. If you're brand new and you don't know what you're doing, we'll help get you started, but you can always build on it. My suggestion is that you follow along with what we do for the first few planes until you get the hang of it. But don't start making a bunch of weird switches do weird things until you have understood what you're doing. It'll save you lots of heartache and a lot of model dollars, okay? So safe sensor assisted flight envelopes. This is auto leveling. So we're gonna scroll this all the way in. Now remember, these are just labels, guys. You don't have to set up labels, but the labels are the difference between handing the transmitter to the guy helping you fly the field and having some other massive situation go on where you're very confused. Okay, so now that we got those names made, now I'm gonna go to channel assign, and you're like, well, hold on a sec. I thought you already said gear did it. Well, that's true. Channel 5 is now gonna be actuated by switch D or flight mode, okay? Then switch D, I don't really use switch D for anything. And the manual didn't describe anything happening with switch D, so we don't have to worry about that, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and just clear that out. And then nobody's using channel 7 for B, and nobody's using the right knob or the rotary knob. They're not using the left lever or the right lever, okay? So now watch this. Once it reboots, the orange light comes on, it tells you your radio is reconnected.
AS3X mode, safe mode.
Now I think I've got that upside down. Yep, we're in AS3X mode, so all I have to do is rotate now. Or go into digital switch setup, which I'm gonna do digital switch setup so I can set them all exactly right. So switch D.
AS3X mode.
So I'm in AS3X mode, I need this to be minus 100, right?
Yes, correct.
So we'll scroll all the way down to minus 100. That's the position that we want to correspond to a particular output. All right, so there's that. And then this one we want to be a plus, or excuse me, we also want this one to be minus 100. Okay, so there's minus 100. Okay, and then I want this one to be plus 100. That's going to turn on safe. Okay, very good. Pretty cool, right? Pretty simple. Next. There you go. So you can see it moving around on that screen. Okay. And then as we walk back out, now guess what? Nothing happens when I screw with my gear switch now. So I don't have to worry about it trying to fly out of the tree or limit my ability to fly out and away from the tree. Okay. So still AS3X. Okay. That's safe. Look at this, guys. Let's go to monitor. See that? It's switching it, but it's in 3. It's not changed. Why did it not change? Digital switch setup. Oh, you know why? Because we made the wrong assignment, guys. My apologies. Switch D is correct, but this is actually flight mode. I am so sorry. I confused myself a little bit. You can't. There's flight mode. I am so sorry, folks.
Oh,
I made the assignment wrong. I apologize. If camera crew, explain what I did wrong.
So
this needs to be minus 100. I apologize,
when
folks.
you changed it in the channel assign,
Yeah.
you changed it to flight mode instead of switch D. But when you did your digital switch setup, you did it on D instead of flight mode.
Yep. Sorry, guys. I didn't mean to confuse you, but I totally did it. And that was not my intention, but this is what we do here on Brian Phillips RC. We learn together, and this is trying to make you more and better equipped. So now watch. That's where the change is happening. No change, no change, no change, and change.
So
we need to probably confirm by going to switch D. And watch this. I'm going to reset these to defaults and just see what happens, okay? Now that should still work. Yep. Very good. So when I go over to monitor, yep.
Yes.
See, now that's gear, which is actually our flight mode now.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
so now in safe, it's going to auto level. AS3X, it's not. AS3X, it's not. See this? AS3X, AS3X, safe. Okay.
So if you get stuck and you have a weird problem, flip to your monitor mode and flip your switches and see what's moving.
That's right.
Our son did that the other day. He couldn't figure something out, and I went to monitor mode, and he had a similar thing that Brian just did.
So, and this is a good learning moment here on Brian Phillips RC. I know you guys are here to watch about the Micro B-2 Spirit Twin 30mm EDF, but at the end of the day, this is really more about learning how to use technology so that you can get the best out of the experience. Now, you could go way beyond what we do on this channel, okay? But the truth is, we know most of you are not gonna go beyond it. So we wanna get you in the air, and the best way we know how is to show how we did it. Also, I just wanna point out something. I just noticed this as I was traveling along. I noticed that my plane is wanting to veer to the right quite a bit, okay? You see that? I can just tell by rolling it. It wants to, camera crew, stop it if it goes all the way to the edge.
Yep.
Wait, push it back to me.
Push it back to you?
Push it back. See, it rolls when it goes backward, but then when I go forward, watch. That's going pretty straight.
Yeah.
So
I wonder.
Carefully push it back. See, it seems like it wants to veer a little bit. I don't care if it veers backward. Is it going straight?
Going straight, it seemed good. Because you put it like right to my hand.
That's right. Okay, we're gonna do it one more time.
Okay.
This is a test that will matter, because when you taxi this, you want it to go straight, so you can take off straight. Ready?
Oh, see, that time it veered a little bit.
Okay, push it back a little bit. So this might be a mechanical trim issue, so I'm gonna show you how to mechanically trim it if it is an issue. Okay, so let's look at this. Right here, you can see from the top. Okay, let's say you're at the flight field and you don't have all the tools you might otherwise want, okay? I'm gonna show you the tools that I would like to use for an application like this. Probably needle nose pliers, okay? If you don't have access to needle nose pliers, that's a pretty limited tool, okay? So this is where the sweep of the yaw is gonna go, okay? My throttle cuts on, so the differential thrust is not active right now. Okay, see how it's moving? You want that thing to be centered. And look, is it centered? It looks like it's veering to the right.
But only very slightly.
Okay, so what I want to do is look at this. See this? I'm going to squeeze this thing just a hair. Then let go. Does it look straight now?
Yeah. If anything, it's going the other way a little bit.
Well, that feels pretty darn good.
Okay.
Pretty darn good. Okay, let's try again. So all I'm doing is just going straight. Does it go straight?
Yeah.
I feel like it needs to go back just a hair. That way. So squeeze ever so slightly. Okay, now we're gonna do it again. Ready?
Yep.
Ooh, that feels pretty dang straight.
Okay.
Okay, the camera crew thinks it's gonna favor to the left a little. I think it's gonna be perfectly square now. So as I test, this is gonna obviously turn it, it's gonna work great, and we're gonna have a good experience. Okay, a couple other things that we've learned over the years working with micros, ultra micros or micros. If we have the long throw linear servos as the servo of choice in a particular aircraft, we have had on occasion experiences where we have servos that will lock up because they go all the way to the end of the throw and they stick, okay? Some people have suggested there is a tip. I'm not sure I'm gonna do it because I wanna show it in its full true colors. Servo setup, on the primary surfaces, you can walk this back a few percentage points. Okay, ailerons, elevator, rudder, no, because there's no physical rudder. There's a steerable.
The nose, yeah.
Okay, so if you drop it just a little bit, you buy some of that back. The freedom, the concern. Now, I don't like doing that because if it isn't a problem on this model, I don't like to showcase it that way. But look at this. What happens is, underneath this coil, that's actually not a coil, it's just a long threaded rod, AKA a bolt. On the end of it is the output shaft. See how that motor is resisting? You can hear it hum when I do that. See, it goes back to the same position. Underneath there is a dielectric compound that's glue, it's like laid on. And that acts as a resistive element, okay? So the resistive element is energized, and this is the feedback pot is actually underneath this. There's fingers that are made of metal that go down and they touch, and it looks like this. It swipes along this pad, okay? And if it's here, it means, 400 ohms of resistance. And if it's here, it means 600 ohms of resistance. And I haven't measured it, but let's just say that's the range. So 400 to 600 ohms of resistance. And then that goes into an imbalanced circuit, kind of like a Wheatstone bridge, which is like what I work on for a living on industrial scales. So that feedback loop, it knows what position it's in within the match to the pulse width modulation that comes out of this, and then it can make the correction to that position. Let's show them the position moving, okay? So what happens is over time, sometimes you get a little bit of schmutz in there, like dirt. It goes and gets into the grease on those, and then it will eventually get down on the bottom. Or you'll get a finger that will get bent, and it'll be out here, and it'll be confused because it doesn't know if it's at 400 or if it's at 600. Maybe it thinks it's like at two spots at once, so it's like, okay, well, the resistive element is gonna kind of split the difference between those, okay? So as it slides along, you have problems. Now that can happen on an aileron servo, it could happen on an elevator servo. It could happen on a steerable nose gear servo. The steerable would be the best if you're gonna have a problem because you can undo these screws, pull that assembly out, and then you can actually take that servo apart and you can take that off and clean it with alcohol and a Q-tip, okay? Now I used to have to do that a lot. When I was flying ultra micros like crazy, when we used to fly from our house, that, by the way, back then it was legal. It was just not ethical for AMA members, which I wasn't one at the time. Okay, we are now because we go to these big events, so we have to be, okay? All right, so if you look right here, if you don't drive it as far, so I'm just gonna demonstrate, look where it goes. It doesn't go quite as far on the sweep. You're less likely to actually overdrive by overshooting that point and then having it get stuck. And when I say stuck, it goes so far that it gets stuck at the end. And then that corkscrew can't release it. It doesn't have enough torque to release it from the end of the throw, the end of the sweep, okay? Now, the other thing that can happen is if you get really tangled up, like if you hit really hard and you have like a bad bounce and this goes like to the other side, you'll have issues too, okay? if you ever have that, just de-energize the circuit. Sometimes they get really hot from having a circumstance like that where it gets flipped around in a funny configuration. And that motor is sitting there like, I need to go, but I can't go because I can't get to the position where I need to be, okay? If that happens, de-energize it, let it cool. If you're lucky, you can just walk this by hand. Like watch, de-energize the circuit, just like this, okay? Then you can walk this. Look, see it moving? Mm-hmm. Can you see? Mm-hmm. Or is it blocked by the wire?
Nope, it's not.
See? Now it's in that position. Watch what happens when I walk back. It's gonna find the position it's supposed to be in almost immediately. Watch. Boop. Wait for it to boot. Snap. Automatically enters bind mode and then it snaps, okay? So that's the same way every servo works, folks. Well, unless you get into crazy advanced, sophisticated, like landing gear and stuff like that. There is some sort of a feedback pot that is either physically attached to the output shaft or not physically attached. But as you sweep through the range, whether it be the rudder servo or an aileron servo or an elevator servo or some other servo, bomb drop servo, you know, tail hook, you know, release for a tow plane, doesn't matter what it is. The point is it knows there's a position and it knows the demand. Okay, so this is demand, I'm gonna work to it. This is the demand, I'm gonna work to it. This is the demand, I'm gonna work to it. The idea is that servo knows where it needs to be and it tries to get there until it gets there. Not to be confused with stabilization, not to be confused with auto leveling. Those are from a flight controller. They change the demand point, okay? And then that servo still acts. The servo is pretty dumb. It doesn't know where it needs to go. So if you didn't know that and now you know it, you're in the right places. You're on Brian Phillips RC. It's more than you needed to know all at once. And we're gonna keep getting you there a little bit at a time, okay? Now, do you need to know that to fly this plane? No, but will it help you become a better RC enthusiast? A better modeler? Yes. And that's why we share these little tidbits of information. That's not to say that, you know, you're going to be able to be a better pilot just because you know how a servo works. But the more you know, the better you'll be able to diagnose problems as you're out in the field, okay? And that's what we want to do. We aim to make you a better pilot, a better builder, and get you through the ranks so that someday this thing can be 10 feet wide instead of however wide this is, 36 inches, what was it?
33
inches? I'm sorry, I'm probably saying it right, 800 and some odd millimeters, okay? Because someday you're gonna want that, and it's super cool. We just came back from Joe watching some of the world's best pilots do some of the most incredible, unspeakable things with airplanes that should not be capable of, I mean, you should not be able to do this stuff, and they do it right in front of your eyes, and you get to watch it happen. It's incredibly cool. But everybody starts somewhere, and this might be your start. They call it a skill level 2. I'm not calling it a beginner aircraft, and there's a lot of companies that would be more than happy to take your $700-800 to buy a little bit bigger version of this and strap some real jet engines on here and crash it and then have you as a customer walk away for 10, 15, 20 years or maybe never come back to the hobby. That's not Brian Phillips RC, okay? And that's not E-flite, by the way. We want you guys to get in for the right reasons into the right type of plane that you can really enjoy. And we're gonna help do that by helping you sift through the millions of Chinese garbage choices to find the best ones. They're gonna float to the top. Sometimes they're a little bit more expensive than a competitive offering, but they're way, way, way better. This is gonna hobby grade. This is a hobby grade experience in a very inexpensive package compared to those 10 footers, okay, with twin jet engine. And yes, you can do that right now. You go buy them. They're commercially available right now today. And you could put $5,000 jet engine, $5,000 jet engine, $1,000 fuel system, $1,500 retracts, you know, $400 servos. I mean, and the list goes on, it doesn't end. And then $500-600 worth of shop supplies to mix up epoxies, screws,
batteries
linkages.
For all the different systems.
Yep, 5 different batteries in there. And these are batteries big enough to fly some of the planes that are the biggest planes we have, just around the ignition systems.
Yep.
Fuel that cost, you know, like basically jet fuel, you know, smoke, 5 gallons every time you fly, okay? This stuff it gets really expensive. So when you see this and you get a little sticker shock, just remember, most people can't afford to do that in this world. And that's okay. But if you want to aim for that, you got to start somewhere. This is where you can start, is stuff like this. So hopefully we're going to wet your whistle just enough, because I'm going to tell you this. You say, hey, I was just at that thing, and I mean, this is nothing compared to that. Trust me, it is. When you're shaking in your boots, trying to fly this thing for the first time and you're scared to death, don't feel like there's no inferiority in that. As soon as you're in control, you're going to get it. You're going to get it immediately. You're going to have an appreciation for this skill that you didn't have before. I promise you. And you think, oh, whatever, it's not that big a deal. Try it. Let me know how big a deal it really is. Safe, that sensor assisted flight envelope where it levels the wings automatically when you let go. You know how it normally works? Oh, you let go of the stick, done. 10 seconds in. You think I'm joking, camera crew? That's the way it goes.
I've seen it happen.
We've seen it, we've done it, we've lived it, okay? And we want you guys to live the positive, amazing experiences. So we're gonna take a minute, we're gonna talk about the remote ID weight issues with this, because it's a little bit over 250, and we'll elaborate on that and see if we can help you on that part of it. But findings on this jet will actually come in the flight portion of the video, where we talk about whether or not it's worth maybe considering if it's flyable and that sort of thing, but we are flying it in a little bit higher than we would have liked wind. And so just keep that in mind with regard to the considerations. Also keep in mind, you can pull the gear off very quick, very easy, throw them into the pocket. You can make this thing a belly lander, which is really nice if you don't have a basketball court or a sidewalk or something to take off from, like we do, which is a pretty good sizable runway, okay? So lots to consider. Here on Brian Phillips RC, we don't like to leave any stone unturned. Obviously, the videos are 10 times longer, but here we feel like the RC addiction, the RC habit, it's not only expensive enough, but it's worthwhile enough to give you guys the full truth, nothing but the truth. So help us God. And that's what we do on Brian Phillips RC. So hopefully we answered your questions. Set your rates just a hair down from the top, and that'll help with the linear long throw servos. Obviously, once in a blue moon, you might need to check, make sure no debris gets up in there. And then also another big detail that we didn't really talk about, but I should have. These things are more serviceable than they've ever been because you've got ball link linkages here. If you want more throws, you can actually move the position that those are mounted in. We're in the middle hole, and there is an inside hole and an outside hole. So you can mechanically adjust them still, which is nice. I'm not going to choose to do that. But these things are more adjustable and more serviceable than they've ever been, in that there is a plug you can undo. You can debond and deglue those, rip them out, and get a replacement part installed. Make sure you order the right one, okay? Because these things are different as long throw linear servos than you might be expecting. There are different variations of these servos. Some move further and some move the opposite direction. And I do not know how to reprogram them, and I don't know that you can reprogram them. There may have been a time in the history of the model where you could, but they were hardwired and the wire would have to be redone. They have gone away from that. Thank God. Good call, E-flite, because now you can just undo that micro pH connector. That's called a micro pH connector, I believe. Okay, and then you can redo the servos one at a time if you would need to. Also, these dust caps should be something you can rip off and easily replace without totally undermining the performance of the jet, which I forget this is kind of an EDF jet, which is pretty cool, even though it's a micro. Okay, so also I gotta say, the looks are getting so good on these ultra micros. This has some very sexy body lines on it, and it looks amazing. Even the littlest detail, like these control arms that go through, are just matching color-wise, and they've just done such a phenomenal job. And yes, there are competitive offerings, and yes, they are good too. By the way, this is plastic. I didn't mention that earlier. Plastic, so when this flips upside down for a rough landing, I think it's going to protect that. It's also going to protect this insertion slot for your clear vertical stabilizer. Now, we've been told, but have not personally experienced it, hopefully in the video for flights we will, that this vertical stabilizer is really only there for you when you want to do some like more aggressive 3D maneuvering. Aerobatics with a B-2 to me are kind of lame, but I'll still probably try to do them a little bit in the video just to show that it can be done. I am a scale aficionado, if that's where I would put myself. I love scale. I want it to look real, and I want to make it look real flying. Some people want to do hammerheads and all this other stuff. I don't even know if it'll do it. I kind of doubt it will. But if you do it, just remember, you got to be careful. This is not an Ultrix. If you want to do crazy 3D, get an Ultrix. It is awesome. It is super fun, and you can get a UMX or a full-size one, right?
Yeah.
So the full size is still pretty small.
It's still pretty small. Yeah, there's two
But
sizes.
super, super, super fun experience. And then get this to do the scale flying, make it look like it's going in to drop some bombs on some bad guys. Really cool. And by the way, I gotta say, look at the light here. Looks sweet.
Yeah, you can see the light
coming out. Okay. No afterburners, but that's okay. Let's get real. You probably shouldn't see the afterburner in an ultra scale.
Yeah.
Stealth.
Kind of a.
All right.
Yeah.
So hopefully we answered all your questions. The only one remaining is the weight stuff, which we'll talk about now. So stay tuned, guys. Hey, thanks so much for watching. We'll do our exit, but if you're stopping now because you don't care about the remote ID stuff, we appreciate you being here. There's so much more coming from Brian Phillips RC, but stay tuned. We'll talk that next. All right, so we never talked about the CG. 140 millimeters from the nose, okay? So it's an articulable point, which is nice. Let's talk about where that is. That falls right in front of this pocket. There's not a real super like duper easy way to test this plane because of the way it sits. So I'm just gonna like put my fingers kind of in front of the pocket, the launching pocket. And I can tell you right now, mine, it's not like the super easiest thing to balance, okay? So right now I would say that it feels tail heavy a little bit, but I'm just telling you, I have my battery all the way forward. I don't think we're gonna get a whole lot more flexibility than putting the battery all the way forward. That's where I'm gonna start mine. And no, this line here, I thought maybe that line was the center of gravity mark, but if you measure from the nose, that is not the mark, okay? So don't think that that's the center of gravity. You're gonna be way far back, okay? So it's like way in front of it like this. If I test it upside down, then it just feels like, I don't know, it's just not gonna balance the way. That's where I'm kind of balancing, is right there. Does that seem about right? It's close enough. Because a plus or minus 5 millimeters, this says +2/-5 millimeters. So I think plus or minus 7 millimeters, or we've got a 7 millimeter range that we're talking about. I would say put the battery in, slide it forward. If you use the recommended battery, you should be fine. But I just wanted to make sure to leave that detail because yes, that's what it says, +2 or -5. That is hyper specific for an ultra micro. Why does it matter? Because these batteries are not exactly the same weight. Push it all the way forward, fly it. If you have one that flies a little bit too nose heavy, make the necessary adjustments. Okay, that's my take. Stay tuned. All right, so you're wondering why we're going back in time at the end of a Brian Phillips RC video. They're super short. So here's the thing. We wanted to measure if this was sub 250, and we did. And we found that it was not. But it was dangerously close, like 14 or so grams. And so we tried a couple of different things just to see if we could get it sub 250, but our findings were as such. No. Okay, short answer. If you want to see our elaborate explanation in that and how we arrived at that, keep watching. We'll show the rest of it. But guys, if you don't want to fly sub 250, if you don't care, if you're not in a FRIA and you don't want to get caught, you don't want to have trouble, it's kind of up to you how you do it. But we know that the Ruco would go in there, and then of course the Sky ID module would also go in there. And just to prove it to you, because here's the thing, here on Brian Phillips RC, we want to make sure that we teach you guys the things you need to know. And let's be honest, most of us don't care, and that's totally cool, and we're with you. Believe me, we're with you. So two choices. The Sky module is a little bit smaller than the Ruco, but the difference is this will fit without a battery and you're one and done, ready to rock and roll. If you really need it, this would be an option. The trouble with the Sky module is you'll have to get yourself a special cable to interface, and we did not find that our cables that came with the Sky module interfaced to the available ports. Now that's not to say you couldn't use the power here, but you gotta build an adapter, and it's gonna be a bit of a pain in the butt, and you're gonna add quite a bit of weight. But just remember, if you do add that Ruco or something similar, you will be close to the center of gravity and you won't impact the flight performance enough to really make it not flyable. So if you really just like live in Caronville and you need the help, we'll show you what we found here, and we hope you guys enjoyed the video. So stay tuned, we'll talk about that next. Because many people that are flying this B-2 are gonna wanna fly it in the smaller environments. And why would you wanna fly a micro plane in smaller environments? Well, because maybe you don't have access to a FRIA where you're flying, okay? Maybe it's a small ball field, whether it be baseball or football or soccer. Soccer field would be the best, of course, it's big. But the thing is, this plane here, you want to be able to fly it and be legal. So let's see if it's legal sub 250, or if we're going to have to drop a remote ID in there for some of you that live with Karens close by, okay? So we're going to go ahead and pull out the kitchen scale, the trusty kitchen scale here, right? Got the kitchen scale. Let's see how much it weighs. Okay, remember, we don't look in the manual for this stuff, we just measure it, because here's the thing. Even if they told us, I would still measure it. Okay, now you'll notice, how do you weigh something on a small scale? If you didn't already know this trick, this is a trick that works well for us. Doesn't always work, but a lot of times it does. Got to stay within the capacity of the scale. I work on industrial scales for a living. So we'll zero this off. Okay, just a whatever size, shape apparatus you need to put the thing on there. Okay, lay it down on there. There you go. So we are 281 grams, okay?
With the battery.
With the battery. Now, let's do a little handiwork here, okay? 281 grams is dang close to 250 grams. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna take off the gear and see if we get it below 250. Because for a lot of you, that might be a deal breaker, okay? So we're gonna show it in all its true colors. And that's what we do on Brian Phillips RC. There are times that we wanna report things that we can't report because it's not the truth, and the truth is what shall set you free, even if you're a B2, okay? So, what do we got?
Back to zero.
264. That is dangerously close to 250. So is there anything we could do to lighten the load by 14 grams? Let's stop and talk about ultra micros for a minute. This is not an ultra micro, A. And B, ultra micro is the smaller of the micros, okay? So I'm really bummed that this is just over. That's 250 grams, off by 16 grams. Might as well be off by 23. You might as well be off by 230 grams. It doesn't matter if you're off by a few grams. If you're 251, I think we could argue it's a scale issue. But that's, how much did we say?
14.
14 grams, good Lord. 14 grams is a lot, guys. That is a disappointing thing. I wonder if there's something else we could take off here. Yes, there are a few things that could be taken off. It looks like, I wonder if that can be, nope, that's access to the EDF modules. Access. Because look, yep, that's your mounts for your EDFs, see?
Yeah.
That's gotta be where you get to your EDFs. Serviceability is nice, I like it, but goodness gracious. Covers, servos,
Those aren't gonna be 14
linkages.
grams though.
Yep, there ain't nothing that's 14 grams, not yet that I can see. Okay, so let's do this. Let's check the batteries. I just wanna see if it's possible, guys. That's what we do on Brian Phillips RC. Okay, so we zero the scale. We'll just put on one battery. 69, 72, lightest. 74, but I got my little homemade Velcro on there, okay? So this is our lightest of the three. And let's hope this battery like needs to go on a diet.
Maybe.
I doubt
Probably
it,
not.
not 14 grams
No.
diet. 72, it is a heavier one. So in order of heavy appearance, this one's the lightest.
But not 14 grams.
70. So much more interesting before. Okay, so we'll pull that tight, push down into the plane with our thumb, and then we'll bring the strap across. Okay, drop this on there loose, don't even need it plugged in, not worried about the center of gravity. I wonder if we could get on there where we can see. 261, folks. So, as expected, we lost about 3 or 4 grams, from the battery, and that's about where we ended. So, I don't know if we want to call that a success or not, but I would call that a test. So,
But then you know.
So now you know. So
If
it's
it
your call
matters.
how you want to handle that. My suggestion is, we are so dang close to the target, I would just find a smaller battery if you're really concerned. And there are a few smaller batteries, but I don't know that you're going to be able to get enough juice. So we'll give you our honest findings and assessment here on Brian Phillips RC, and that is what we do day in and day out as we film. Because at the end of the day, our objective is not to just give you guys a bunch of fluff. We're going to give you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so that you can make a good decision, okay? Now, that being said, the Sky module from Spectrum is pretty big for this model, okay? I got to admit, I would not probably put that in there. And I wouldn't want to put in one of these cheaper ones, but the only advantage there is you might have a little bit less cabling, but your net weight increase is going to be similar. So if you really are in Caronville and you have to do it, okay, the thing that's nice is if you use the Spectrum Sky module, first of all, you have all these plugs. Look at all these plugs, hon. See? There's tons of these little plugs come with it. Come over here. See? You got all these little plugs, and they will help you steal power from a particular application so you don't have to depend on a second battery. Of course, the second battery would be a killer for a plane like this. But let's pretend for a minute that you wanted to use this Sky module, okay? So that you could be fully legal. Pretty much you would just look in here until you found a plug that would steal power. And that says LED right there. So I guess let's see what plug that might be. Nope, that looks like SRXL. Here's one, this one might work. See, that's got 4, that looks like SRXL. Do we have any of these plugs that we can tap to be fully legal if you want to be fully legal and fully compliant? That is if you're not flying in a FRIA, of course. If you're in a FRIA, of course, you're totally fine. But some people may not want to fly in a FRIA. I haven't seen one yet, hon. I'm not seeing any of these plugs that made up. They're too big. All right, so we're gonna take a second and come right back. All right, so what we did is we pulled out the servo just to answer the question that you guys are probably thinking. The people that are concerned about the remote ID stuff, which we're not one of them, this is 3 grams for the 2 screws and the servo. Okay, so come back over here. It's got a little assembly that stands off over the board, okay? So you can see here, you've got this, you could pull that rod off, that's probably 1 gram. And then even if you were to dig the guts of this assembly and that cable out, you're probably gonna be saving like 5-6 grams if you're lucky. We need 14 to get under that 250 threshold. So just keep in mind when you fly this, this is gonna be not a sub 250 even though it's super close. Remember, when the Draco came out, they had 2 different battery sizes they recommended. One battery was for legal flight and then one was for, inside of FRIAs and things like that. So you guys get to make your decisions. We're not trying to change anybody's mind here. We obviously didn't make the rule. We think the rule is sort of nonsense. And between you and me and the tree, it doesn't matter to most people. But the truth is, we want to make sure we tell you the full truth, nothing but the truth, so help us God. We go to great lengths to tell the full truth on Bright Phillips RC. Because at the end of the day, this could be a deal breaker for like 10 of you out of the 40,000 people that watch this video. And we want to make sure that we're communicating that to those 10. The other 39,999 of you, or I'm not very good at math, obviously.
Not on camera.
You're fine. But I just wanted to do that to save you guys the trouble of doing it yourself. Okay. So we're going to get this thing pushed back in here, put everything right back where it came from. Oh, by the way, if you just can't trust me and you did it yourself, the linkage, the rod right here, it came out of this biggest hole, which is right here toward the front of the plane. Okay. So I'm just going to show you real quick. Sometimes it's a little bit tricky to get these. So I just used a straight tool to just get it lined up first. And then I just walked it on, and then I used the forceps, thank you, camera crew, the forceps like this to kind of hang on to it, and just so it doesn't spin on me, and then I can rotate it like that. And it was relatively easy to do, but it's just, I know sometimes you guys are out at the flight field, you got stuff on the line, you don't want to dink around with it, and so the reason we do this is so that you don't have to, okay? So that's the short answer to the question. I thought maybe we could get away with losing that little bit of weight just to get you fully compliant if it was a concern. So alternatively, like I said, you can still plop a remote ID in there. There's quite a bit of room in there, but my situation is different than yours maybe, or yours is different from the next guy's. So just remember, everybody's got a different situation. That's why we talk about it. Not trying to change hearts and minds on compliance with remote ID. Okay, all right, we'll come right back. And so now that we've established that you can't make it sub 250, which is agreeably not a big deal for most of us, we know that, and you can act on that, so no big deal, all right? So beautiful plane, hope it flew great. Obviously that's future Brian will tell you if it was great, and you already saw that at the beginning of this video. We do ultra micros in one big long chunk so you can see it all at once, and we do this for every type of plane that we've ever done. Usually it's separated in 2 videos, Unbox, Build, Radio Setup, which we film in that order chronologically, and then we have the Maiden Flights in some order or some semblance of order that makes sense based on our findings with the airplanes. With these ultra micros, because they're smaller planes and a lot simpler Unbox, Build, Radio Setups, we put them at the end of the flight. So that's what you're watching right now. Just keep in mind, if you're looking at another plane or helicopter anywhere around here, we've done all of them. And believe me, this is just only the very tip of the iceberg here on Brian Phillips RC. We've done literally thousands. I think we're up to like close to 3,000 videos right now that you can watch on demand. Just head over to brianphillipsrc.com and you can check them out. Or if you don't know how to spell Brian or Phillips or RC, you can do bprc.me and you'll be right there. Same place, short link to the regular website and domain. And you can sort by type or by brand specific, manufacturer or distributor specific names. So like if it's an E-flite product you want to see, great. If it's FMS, you want to see it, great. Hangar 9, you want to see it, great. It doesn't matter, FMS, you can find them. It's easy, you'll be able to do it. I promise you, you can. Also, we sort by type. So if it's a helicopter you're wanting instead of this beautiful B-2, then you can do that as well. And we'll help you get out of the chair and into the air, because here on Brian Phillips RC, we make a huge habit of trying to get people out of the chair and into the air. Now, that doesn't mean if you've never flown, it's gonna be easy, okay? It's hard, but we'll help get you there, okay? And if you're returning to the hobby, I didn't say it was gonna be easy. In fact, it's probably gonna take you a little bit of time to get up to speed, but we're gonna be here to kind of hold your hand through that process and kind of draw you back in, because I'm gonna tell you what, there's never been a better time in the history of RC to be in RC. You should get back if you're not. Right now is the time to start. Don't wait 6 months, don't wait a year, because here's the thing, if you wait 6 months, you're 6 months later into the experience. You could have been 6 months better. Flying, if you're brand new, you could have had 6 months more exposure to amazing different models, because they run them for short runs anymore. That's just the way it works. These things are made of foam. They're very economical compared to what you were spending 20 years ago. And you'll probably laugh when you see the price, but just do the math, figure it out, guys. These things are awesome. The technology that's getting crammed into them is just incredible. And that's the other thing we're gonna do here, is we're gonna help you unpack that technology so you can make the most of it on Brian Phillips RC. We're not gonna leave you hanging with half-answered questions, okay? Remember, from the box into the air, that's what you're gonna see on Brian Phillips RC. And we like to bring it first, and special thanks to E-flite and some of our other brand partnerships that we have from Horizon Hobby for letting us be in that position to do it. We love this hobby. We are obsessive, and we do it for real, okay? We're not just sellouts. We're gonna tell you the full truth, and sometimes that hurts a little bit. It's a bummer this isn't sub 250, really. It's kind of a big deal for some people. Not for us, but it might be for others, okay? So we're realists here. We're gonna get you where you need to be, and if you want the full truth, you're in the right place. So stay tuned, guys. So many other planes coming. There's literally 3 new releases right around the corner, and we can't wait to film them. We just got back from one of the world's largest events for RC, and I'm talking 4 days straight of RC, 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 RC for us. And there's people that were 6 days behind us still. It's a 10-day event, and we actually technically stayed till the 11th. But super cool. If you haven't ever been to Joe Nall, you should check it out. It's in Woodruff, South Carolina. We go via Simpsonville,
Greenville,
Simpsonville.
Yep.
That's where we fly into Spartansburg,
Yep.
Greenville. Yep. And then we like to stay there, and then we drive down each day and come back and forth. We have to get a rental car, and so we can't pack planes. So special thanks to the people that worked with us to let us fly both their own planes and planes that they had access to. It was super fun. I love being at the event, love seeing the lives that we can touch. And you wouldn't believe it, because it sounds like a bunch of smoke and mirrors, but I'm gonna tell you what, just meet me in person, I talk even more.
Yep.
All right, so that being said, sunburn and all, Brian Phillips signing out. Thanks to the camera crew for her hard work behind the scenes. And a special thanks again to E-flite for working with us on these early releases. It is a privilege and an honor to serve the RC community, and we're gonna keep doing it as long as you guys keep coming back. So don't forget to smash the like button and click the bell for notifications when you do subscribe, because there's a whole lot more content we haven't even seen yet. So stay tuned. So the camera crew said that this name tag thingy, this is supposed to be, these wristbands come from Joe Nall, and she said it was distracting. So I cut this off, and I kept this on just so you guys could see. Joe Nall, in memory of Uncle John. So Uncle John, we met Uncle John last year, and he passed away. So it's a loss for the hobby, which is too bad. So thanks for all the stuff you did for Joe Nall. It's a super cool, awesome facility, and that's it's not just the facility, it's the hard work and effort that went into this gigantic thing. And Joe Knoll is actually the guy who died of Lou Gehrig's disease years ago in 1980s, like around the time we were born.
Yeah, I think so.
And that's what this event is named over, is a friend that ended up passing away. So if you guys are curious, we met Pat, who's kind of like one of the patriarchs, and there's actually a whole handful of them. I can't name them all, but it's a really cool event, and we just want to say special thanks for putting it on. It is amazing what you guys put together in that thing. So,
Yep.
I mean, we're not necessarily doing this in the same vein, so we don't want to put ourselves into anywhere near the same circumstances, but it is really cool. I mean, especially putting together our little baby aerodrome, we see how much has come of it, and it's just amazing to us to watch it. It's almost like magical. It's like the stars have to align for something like that to happen. And so it's really cool that we can be part of it.
It's the heart behind the event.
Yeah.
And because when Pat stopped and got off his tractor, and Brian said, hey, thanks for letting us come out and, tear up your field and you make a mess and all that stuff. And what Pat said was, it would be a shame to have all of this and not share it with people. And that's also truly the way that they feel about it.
And also, the truth is, he says, I couldn't do it if you guys weren't around. And he means it.
Yep.
Every year. And he talked to me for 10, 15 minutes, and I'm sure he would you too. And that's what's so crazy is, you don't go down to like an NFL game and the owner pops out and just says, hey, how's it going? And shakes your hand and talks to you for 20 minutes.
And is working actively
and is like
during the
running
event.
a tractor, cleaning up messes. It's incredible. The down-to-earthness is so cool. So anyway, I don't know if you guys are seeing this in the Joe Knoll video or if you're seeing it in the E-flite, Micro B-2 Spirit Bomber. One way or another, it doesn't really matter. The point is there's super heart that went into it. That's why we're keeping this on out of tribute to the Joe Knoll event. It's so much fun, guys. And if you've never done it, you should do it for sure. It is especially if you're in that region. If you're not traveling from 14 hours away or, getting on multiple airplane rides like we have to get there, or at least at this stage of our life. Someday we'll maybe have an extra couple of days we can tack on to the end of our event to make it possible that we could drag campers. I mean, there's people dragging stuff from a lot further than where we are. So, but it's super cool. And so special thanks real quick. We just want to squeeze that into the super short video here on Brian Phillips RC. We really love the RC experience and we think you will too. So all you first timers at Joe Knoll, there's been many more of them. Like I think there's 40 some of them.
Well, that one's 43.
43.
And that's at that facility. No, that's total.
That's all.
There's 43 total.
So this is the second.
I think they've been
huge
at
facility.
Triple Tree for 25-ish.
Like about half of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a little longer now at this facility than the previous. We never were at the previous facility, but I can only imagine the amount of heartache from when the first one had to end and they moved to the second. And it used to be like in his house, like, hey, come into my house. And it must have been nuts. But you talk about heart of charity and give back to what you love. And I'm not saying, I mean, if you love something, to give of yourself that much is incredible. So it's pretty cool. Good example. Guys, be part of it. Stay tuned.